Hi, welcome to Coco Styling, and let's keep talking about olives. This has been one of the hardest videos to make because it is really hard to find examples. Olive undertones are hard to understand by themselves, especially with the darker skin tones in the dark skin spectrum. So try to stay until the end, and as a reward, you'll get an extra tip for makeup. This is actually part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1, it is very likely that you're not going to understand this one. So here's the link to that. In the first part, we talked about temperature and saturation. Now let's look into the different olive types. I'm going to use a few examples of warm and cool olive people that might be saturated or muted. Keep in mind that I haven't seen them in real life and that pictures get edited a lot to give dark-skinned people a golden sun-kissed look. Let's pretend that this is how they actually look, and you could use that as a reference for yourself. If we see these examples of Gabrielle Union, they are completely different, and the reality is probably somewhere in the middle. Let's see a few examples of warm olives. There will be a mix of muted and saturated olives without a specific order. Like I said in the last video, warm olives have a bronzy, goldish look to them. The more saturated they are, the more golden they will look. But the wrong colors can still make them look off. White can also be a determining factor to see if you are a cool or warm olive. Warmer ones can look sallow while wearing optic white. Warm olives can handle colors a lot easier than cooler olives, but the cool ones can easily be mistaken for warm ones, again, because of that yellow overtone. Let's talk about some color possibilities for you as a warm olive. Muted colors can make saturated olives look drained. Some blues might look very good since they have a neutral undertone, but try to be careful with very warm colors because they can drain you if they are much more warmer than your skin. Some saturated olives look very golden, so they are not going to have this problem, but if you are not as golden, be careful with that. Now, as a muted olive, try to avoid bright and cool shades. Even if you're neutral, wearing bright royal blue can be too much. The same goes for hot pinks and cool purples. You can still handle a few more colors than a cool muted olive, but still be careful with very bold colors. Let's see a few examples of cool olives. Just like with the warm ones, there is going to be a mix of muted and saturated olives without a specific order. Cool olives can have a grayish look to them, but they can also look a bit red in certain lightings. It is not as common if you are a lighter cool olive, but it does happen with darker tones. It can be hard to identify if you are a cool olive if you have a very yellow overtone. If you feel like your skin looks yellow, but warm colors make you look sickly, try one of the color palettes. Like I just mentioned, saturated cool olives have that interesting characteristic, and it is that sometimes they can look a bit more red. This is very common among South Asian people, and because they are more saturated, that means that they have a higher color tolerance than muted cool olives. But still, the wrong colors can make them look a bit off. Muted cool olives have a lower color tolerance than the other olives, so it's important not to choose very bright and strong colors. It's not that they can't be dark, because of course we have dark winters that are on the more muted side, but you might want to stay away from bright and vibrant hues. They can be lighter or darker, but they should not be bright. If you want to go for brighter colors, make sure that they are on the cool side. Remember that as a cooler olive, your cooler undertone is stronger than your overtone, so even when you're able to wear some warmer hues, if you go way too warm, it's going to drain your coloring. If you're here, you probably want to know what's your color season. You can have an olive undertone and be any of the seasons. However, most olives tend to be a bit more muted. If you feel like you are very muted and you have a low contrast level because your features kind of blend together, you might want to look into the soft summer or soft autumn palette. If you feel like you're not that muted and those colors don't do anything for you, let's go into the dark seasons. However, if you're looking into the dark seasons, you need to have darker features. That doesn't necessarily mean that your skin needs to be dark, but your eyes and your hair need to be dark to be able to handle those dark and intense colors. It is not that you won't be able to find olives with a higher saturation level. Of course, they are out there, especially with darker skin tones, but they tend to have a deep sort of contrast instead of a clear type of contrast. However, if you looked into the dark seasons and the colors feel like they are too dark, and you're still able to handle brighter colors, you should look either into the clear spring palette or the clear winter palette. Finally, if you feel like muted colors drag you down, dark colors are way too dark for you, and brighter colors can overpower you, you should look into the light spring or light summer colors. Keep in mind that this is one of the rarest types among olives, and it is even less likely with darker skin. But we're going to talk about ethnic light seasons in the next video. That was it for today. Let me know if you liked it, and if you want to, you can share this. It can be very helpful for other people that have darker skin tones with olive undertones. It would also be great if you know about any other examples with darker skin tones so that I can go a bit more in detail with them. And here's a bonus tip. It's really hard to find foundation shades if you have a darker skin tone, and even more if you have a darker skin tone and an olive undertone. So here are a few brands that do carry dark olive foundations. Kosas, Armani, and Urban Decay. Pat McGrath and Fenty carry olive foundations as well, but from what I have heard, they still tend to be a bit too yellow or a bit too red. Those are the ones that I know of and have heard good things about them. Please help your other fellow olives and comment what foundations have worked for you. By the way, if you do find a shade that you feel like it looks really good, but it could still be a bit more olive, get foundation mixers. They help a lot. Getting a blue one and a yellow one instead of a green one is ideal because then you can create your own green. Or if you get a pure olive mixer, you can also alter it with blue and yellow. And that is actually it. Unless you give me more examples, then I can make part 3. But in the meantime, this is everything that I have to say about olives. If you want more resources, you can go to my blog, micalumsden.com. And if you want to hire me as your personal stylist, you can go to cocostyling.com. Have a nice day, and I hope to see you soon.